I'll try to pay attention to it. And if I don't, Heather will call me out. And then we can, at the end, I'm hoping to reserve some time for some Q&A where you can just get off mute and we can have some questions and answers. First of all, this is a teaser of what's to come. I made this meme last night. I started a meme company. And so here, you're at the webinar. You can lay your head down and go to sleep for an hour, but my voice is going to be in your head. So you're going to learn this organically, right? So who am I? So Hita, guess what? I went to JCPenney last week and I got headshots. I had a coupon. I thought it was going to be $25. It was not. And I said, whatever you do, I don't want to be posed like this. And I kept telling her that, and then I just gave up. So I thought that was fine. That's why I put that little card in here. So who am I? I work here at this great company, NextUp Solutions, as does my co-host, Hita. She will be supporting this call. And I'm the Vice President of Innovation. I wear a lot of hats here. We're a small but mighty company. I'm a Senior Agile Coach, and I do a lot of Agile training, a lot of Kanban, Agile facilitation, Agile coaching and classes. Also, I'm an amateur podcaster, and I see my friend Jimmy is one of my fellow podcasters. Hey, Jim, it's the J&J podcast team. And I do like chocolate chip cookies. So if you would like to send me some homemade chocolate chip cookies, I will give you my address. A little bit about NextUp Solutions. So we provide, like I mentioned, training. We have all of these different classes that we provide, high quality training. We get tons of great feedback in Scrum. There are Kanban courses. We teach SAFe for private classes, and then we have some IC Agile classes that we also have out on our calendar. And then our coaching, probably have a lot of people who are Agile coaches and Scrum Masters on the call. We do Agile transformations, assessments, public sector. We have a couple of expert coaches who have done a lot of work in the public sector. That's a whole nother ballgame when you're working with government entities, and then Agile consulting and team coaching. And then there's another secret component you may not be aware of. It's called acceleration. It's also underneath the NextUp Solutions umbrella, where they create custom software for organizations who would like a good quality software at a low price. Okay, what is a value stream? So think of it as this description here. It's the people and the sequence of all of the activities that are required to take something from an idea, or it could be a request from a customer, to value, whatever value means. Sometimes this is said concept to cash. Now, what are all the things that happen along this way? And what are your processes? So that's my value stream. And we really want to think in the value stream from end to end when we're going into a mapping session. And then one of the key factors we're paying attention to is how long does it take? How long does it take to get something from request to delivered? That's called our lead time. So what is the problem we are trying to solve through value stream mapping? So first of all, for profit. What are we trying to do for profit? We're trying to make more money. If I'm a nonprofit, we have a set bucket of money, and we want to make sure that we're using that money the best we can to provide the most benefits for whoever our end users are, or constituents if you're government. And then the longer it takes to define and deliver a concept, the more it will cost. So think about the lead time. The longer the lead time, the more expensive that piece of functionality is going to be. So time is something we want to consider very carefully. That's why we want to focus on making those lead times shorter and shorter and shorter. So the more time we spend on something, you're paying your employees regardless. That's why that costs more. And then if I want to make profit, right, it's a revenue minus your costs. So that's one way you can reduce costs and also provide more value to your customers more quickly. And you can get quick feedback and start growing that market space. So time equals money. And I found this little quote here, love them or hate them, by Henry Ford, where if you were in a automobile factory, you can see a lot of waste, stuff that's not adding value, and it's on the floor, but you can add, if it's actual material, you can add it back into your production. I went to a cookie plant, and for every cookie recipe they create, they put the rework, the stuff that failed, they grind it up and they add that to their new stuff that they're creating. But with time, we don't have that luxury. Oh, we made a mistake. We've eaten up all this time. And like we say here, it's really hard to correct. It's hard to get that back. So we want to be always working to improve our processes to shrink those time wastes. So in value stream mapping, the goal is to identify and fix the factors that create lead time delays. So what is value stream mapping? Here's a nice little book you could buy if you wanted to, by Karen Martin and Mike Osterling. They didn't invent value stream mapping. It comes from the lean manufacturing, but this is a good resource if you want to get into more details. And then just the term mapping. Why do we use the term mapping? You've done this probably many times in your life. It's making the invisible visible, the activity or process of creating a picture or a diagram that represents your value stream, and then getting some details around that. We can't fix what we can't see. We can't manage what we don't have a common understanding about. So VSM is creating that end-to-end workflow, a map that says, and it's sequential, and then different interdependencies. And I want to see that in some type of visualization to drive a conversation, a meaningful conversation for improvement. Let's figure out where we're at now. What is our current capabilities? All right, cool. Now, what could we do to improve? What are some takeaways? And then we designed another map. This is how we like our value stream process to look. And then we implement that, basically transform. And then we're continually inspecting and adapting, saying, okay, did that add the value we expected? Maybe we want to do this session on a regular cadence to make small improvements along the way. So again, it comes from lean manufacturing. And if you're familiar with systems thinking, so a system is, we're all part of a bunch of different systems, is a group of interrelated components that are working together for some common goal. So if you have a small team who's developing something, each person is one of those components. And in order to create that overarching goal, the components need to work well together. So we're finding the delays in the handoffs and maybe some misunderstandings. And that's what that's what we're considering when we think of systems thinking. So identify your system and all of the people involved, the different departments, and that will help inform you what is our value stream and which value stream are we going to tackle in our next value stream mapping session. So the purpose, that was loud, improve our lead time, quality, improve our quality, right? If we have items that go out there to market and they have defects, they have problems, they're not usable, that's going to increase our lead time. Now we have to fix all the defects, and that's increasing our demand if we only have so much capacity. That's not cool. And it makes our customers really mad, and they might not like our services anymore. Improving our throughput. So lead time is how long it takes something to get done from beginning to end. Your throughput is how many items that we can deliver in a time frame. Oh, we can get 5 different memes out every week. So let's see if we can increase that. Not by saying work harder or work longer, but by saying, hey, what are the things that are delaying this? It might just be something where it's just sitting there waiting in a queue. Oh, how can we shrink that? And finding wastes. that a waste would be, in lean terminology, you're spending time and money on something that's not necessary and it's not adding value. So we always have these little sneaky things that come in and create this source of waste, which leads to delays. Identifying those and eliminate or mitigate those. And then a lot of it's consensus, right? People have to talk to each other. I might be in one department and I assume I understand how work flows through our system, but maybe I don't have a full understanding. And so I want to get with everybody and make sure we all agree on this is how our current process is. This is how we would like to modify it to see more improvement. Find out where the delays are and what are the specific outcomes that you want to improve. So it's not just doing a process to do a process. We really, what are we trying to achieve through doing this? And then coming up with those future system improvements. All right, so here are some value stream components. When we talk about value stream mapping, there's these key chunks. So if you are going to facilitate this, starting with the prep work, and this is from that book that I just showed you, Value Stream Mapping. They're saying maybe even a month in advance, you're doing some preparation. And so that would be super nice to have a strong facilitator that has the authority to reach out to all of the leaders who have good understanding and ability and the cred, I guess, to actually make change, and getting them on board, educating them what's the purpose of this, and then getting any data if you have together in order to make this a valuable meeting. And then we get together, we schedule it, we say, all right, let's map the current state. How are things now? And then after we agree on that, we map the future state. Okay, here's how we want to modify it. And then we make a plan. All right, how are we going to roll this out? How are we going to start? Are we going to do a big bang or do little chunks at a time? And how are we going to circle back and assess that we're going in the right direction? We might need to pivot and roll back. We thought that would work. We were experimenting. It actually made our lead time longer. All right, let's go ahead and re-meet and then see if we can process this better. So we want those leaders in our value stream mapping sessions, but you don't want them to do it in isolation. So in a lot of cases, they'll be going back and then getting clarity and detail from the people who are actually doing the work. Oh, that's how you do that. I had no idea. All right, cool. So we want a realistic picture of how work flows through your system. So in the book, they say carve out 3 full days to do this back to back to back. And that's a lot of work and a lot of time suck from a perspective of, I can't carve out that much time. You don't have to do it in 3 days. If you've never done it before, and if you are a manufacturing plant and you're trying to organize the value stream for an entire company, it could take 3 full days easy. My domestic partner used to work in a machine shop, and they did the same thing with the entire shop. It took them 1 full day. They went out and had a retreat and did that. So FYI, you could potentially do this in a few hours, depending on what you decide to map out, what stream. If there's multiple streams, it could be longer. All right, so the preparation. So first of all, decide on what value stream you're mapping. Make sure you're aligned on that. And maybe you don't have the people or the capacity to really do from end to end. Maybe I would really like to consider the financial aspect. When we plan a big new feature, then we have to go to the capital committee and ask for money. And that is a huge time suck. But maybe they're just not ready for that conversation. So deciding what the end points and the beginning points will be. So here's my example, the AAA meme factory. We build memes for people when they request them, and then we fulfill those orders high level. And then identify the different departments who are involved in this value stream, and who's going to join this meeting. Who do you need to be there for it to be successful? And then you want to agree on your goals and metrics. And this is from the book, the value stream book. And I see this and it just makes me want to throw up. But there's some good information that you would want to identify. What is our scope? What's the demand rate if we know it at this point? What are some things so we don't get into their meeting and then spend the majority of it just like, I don't know, and then completely not having time to do the mapping. Let me show you a cool thing. Keep it practical. So if you've ever used a Mural or, like Rachel mentioned, Jamboard, if you have a source, if you're not co-located, you could use one of these tools. It's an online collaborative whiteboard. And I found this, I did not create this. This was a template from Mural that's really simple and easy to follow. And if you were all located in the same place, you could just do this with sticky notes, big sticky notes, markers, candy, all that fun stuff. So here we go. The charter could be so simple as who are the people? What's our business case? What are the scopes? And then what goals and metrics? What are we trying to achieve? So I have some examples here, and then you can create sticky notes here, talk about those, and then come to an alignment on that. All right. I'll just stay in here. This is kind of cool. All right, so you want to first define what are our start and end points. Bam. So let's say for the meme factory, we said, well, it's when a request comes in, request submitted to when it's delivered. Meme delivered. All right, so now we align on that. And then we go down here and now map out those high level process steps. So there's a lot of steps within these. We're thinking a little bit larger buckets. So for this example, actually, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. I think I jotted it down. So initially, okay, order submitted. We make sure we understand the requirements. Then we create the meme. I guess we have to pick a picture too, and then add the caption to it. And then may have someone, edit it, make sure I didn't spell anything wrong and it meets the requirements and expectations of our meme requester. And then we have some kind of an acceptance step, and then my customer receives the meme. So when you're building the value stream, think of it as a customer centric, what we're creating along the way for the customer. So we have a lot of different steps that you do to fulfill that. But if you have that as the overarching arc, okay, think about the work item, the customer request. What steps does it go through in order to get fulfilled? I'm going to go back to this. I'm so used to training, I would say, is there any questions? But we only have an hour. No questions in the chat, it looks like. Everyone's taking a nap, huh, Jim? Oh, kudos. Time to take a drink of water. All right, so number 4 here, the current state. So what I would do, I'd create, here are my process steps. We agree on that. And then I would copy those and I would come down here. I do not like this red color, so that's probably the first thing I would change. And then I would paste it here on the second row. And then you're having the conversation. Are there inputs? Maybe some of these you don't have to use. Now there's no inputs. Who's going to do what? And then we're going to talk about this in a minute. I did see, I don't disagree with this. Look at this. There's even instructions. I love the internet.
Hey, Jill. We have a question in the chat of how Chantel is asking, how many people do you recommend for this exercise?
Yes, thank you. And I just saw that. Thanks, Hira. So here, I don't know their source, they say about 2 to 10 people. I think that's a good, think of a scrum team size. I have 50 people, it's not going to be productive. So we want key people. If you have, let's suppose you have a team of teams, rather than having 150 people in the meeting, pick 1 or 2 representatives from each one of those 5 different teams to keep it small, because that collaboration is important. Think of that as a little system. We want each of the components to be communicating and sharing ideas with each other. So they recommend, not recommend, the suggestions cadence here is 1 to 3 hours. Potentially you could do this half a day, which sure looks better than a 3-day meeting. All right, going down to our current state here. All right, so with each one of those steps that we've defined, I'd want to figure out, okay, who's responsible for that? What department is it? Maybe it's an individual. Maybe you have a small little team and it's like, that's Henry. Oh, that's Sally. That's Rajesh, so forth. And make sure that's clear and understand. Then you might see, wow, Rajesh has a lot of stuff on his plate. Maybe he's overburdened. Maybe that explains our bottleneck. And then here, we're going to talk about some metrics. I'm going to scroll back over. Why didn't I make a PowerPoint? This is way easier. All right. So when you see LT, if you've ever seen a value stream map for manufacturing, it has all these little abbreviations. So LT is lead time. So that's how long, if it came in. So I'm looking at overarching lead time. So when something comes in to when it goes out, oh, well, let's see, it looks like that's 50 days. Whoa, we want to shrink that. And then within that, each one of the steps, we want to figure out what's the lead time for those, or you might want to call it cycle time, whatever. We don't have time for that debate, my lean people. So I want to identify that. If I don't know, if I come into the meeting like, I don't have any idea, it would be nice to say, all right, we're going to get back together. Let's find out the average lead times for each one of those steps. If you do have a tool that already has that data, bring it into the meeting. And if you don't have any information, do your best guesses at this point. Then we have our value add time. So for each one of those components, you say, well, it takes 5 days, for example, to get something through the development step. How much of that time is spent actually working on it? The value add time versus its waiting. So this is where we talk about flow efficiency. So flow efficiency would be, all right, for this step, it looks like the lead time is 5 days. And there were actually only 2 days where it was actively being worked on. So if I did a little calculation and I said 2 divided by 5, I don't know what the math is, looks like our flow efficiency is about 30%. Let's get a real clear understanding of, oh, that's pretty low. Maybe we can reduce some of that wait time. Maybe we have too much work in progress, for example. So it's just sitting there. I've got 12 things on my plate. I can only do one meme at a time. And in the meantime, those things are just plopped there waiting. Waste. And then we have this little guy here. I can never remember what these letters stand for. But the goal here is to focus on how often, what percentage of the time do we have rework that's required in each one of the steps. So it's the percent of your work items that were complete and accurate the first time. And it didn't require any rework. So this is a great opportunity to put some numbers around this. How often, if think we understand the requirements and then we give it to the meme developers, they're saying, I don't even understand what we're doing. And then it goes back to the designers or the requirements gatherers. And then I want to track that, find out a way in your Agile tools to track that time so we can see, oh, here's an opportunity for improvement. Maybe what we do in that case is We have a better understanding and an intake form. So the report requirements gatherers know specifically what the customers want represented in their memes, and then figure out how to improve that process and that point. I'll show you a little example I created. I just did this in Excel. I think you can do anything in Excel. It's not the prettiest tool, but here, let's say we identified these are our steps. Here are the different groups who handle each one of them. And then my lead times. And this is average lead time. So don't get too hung up about a lot of the details on that. Just my average. Should be able to pull that from your data. And then over here on the right side, okay, taking into consideration each one of these lead times for each step, looks like it takes us about 21 days, our total lead time, in order to get something from concept to cash. And then here's my value add time. How much of that time was spent actively working on it? So I go and put those numbers in. And then it turns out of those 21 days, only 7 days are being actively worked on. And so the other part of that equation is work is just sitting, waiting. I see an opportunity for improvement to reduce those wait times, figure out, talk together how to do that. And then I have my complete and accurate, excuse me. So I get the percentage of how many items were right the first time as it went through each one and didn't have any rework, put those in there. And then I do my roll calculation. So it's about overall about 30%. I'm looking at these. Okay, this is pretty low. Maybe we need to have, I don't know, shift testing left. Maybe have some parameters that saying these are what we're going to check as we actually develop the meme to make sure we don't have to have those back and forth, adding more delay. And another good thing to consider is batch sizes. So I've said several times, oh, maybe there's just too much work in progress. How many items are typically in each step along the way? Well, let's see, when orders come in, there's 30. We've got 30 in our backlog, in our queue, just waiting. We've already committed to the customer. So that's a time ticker, right? If you're at the bottom of that 30 or 100 list, you know it's going to take you longer. If we can get those through faster and have less in there, it might make our whole system flow more smoothly. And then what are our batch sizes, average batch sizes in each one of these steps? And a lot of times when we're thinking about improvement, whoa, our developers have 10. That's a lot. And oh, how many developers do we have? 1. No wonder. That could be our bottleneck. And I'm not surprised that the rework is higher. If I'm only one person, I'm overburdened. I'm doing a little bit here and there. I'm going to miss stuff. Opportunity for improvement. All right. I don't see any other questions in our chat. So here, once we've filled out, we've created this, they call this the current state. Whew. All right, now we're ready to have a discussion. Taking notes kind of along the way as you're having the conversation above, creating the current state map. What are some potential improvements? To say, hey, this, like I just mentioned, got that development bottleneck. We need to figure out how to improve that, how to optimize that, for example. Come up, brainstorm some ideas, and then decide on a few things that are actionable in the near future. There might be some things that come up that, like the finance pain point, that could be something for the future. And then once we build up that cultural ability to communicate across different departments. Then we go to our future state. In a perfect world, or there's no such thing as a perfect world, but why would we like, what do we think we can do to modify these steps as work flows through to make it more efficient? So you go through the same exercise that you did with the current state map, but this is more with your vision hat on. All right, maybe a lot of it's the same, but where do we want to tweak it? Maybe there's some processes we found we can eliminate. Oh, we were doing all this upfront documentation. Do we really need that? Why are we doing that? And the team says, oh, we've just always done it this way. Maybe that's something we can eliminate to increase our velocity, if you will. And then potentially coming up with different people. Maybe we need another person helping out actually creating the memes. And then our estimated, this would be estimated, not just using wishful thinking, but if we modify and make some changes to our process, what do we think we can, how can we improve our lead times? What are we hoping to get as far as increasing our flow efficiency? And then also decreasing the amount of rework that happens along the way. And once that's all done, and then priority. So this is a fun meeting to rein everybody back in. So we're really doing a lot of diverging conversations. We need lots of ideas. And then you're like, whoa, we can't do all of this. Let's never do anything. Then we want to take that and then whittle it down. What are the easier things to implement that will have the largest impact? What is affecting our customers' experience the most? Questions like that that you'll want to address with the group. And then agree on how we're going to prioritize these. So different ideas could be simple as we want to improve our lead times. So we're going to have less work in progress, for example. And then come up with an implementation plan, right? And if you read the VSM book, there's another scary spreadsheet that you could use as a reference, or you could keep it kind of simple. Have a template that says, all right, what are we hoping to accomplish? And who's going to do what? Hey, I'm going to own that. I've got to do a lot of meetings and work with the team themselves if we're going to have this change. And then how are we going to track it? We're going to have think of a roadmap. Okay, we want to do this potentially. We know that our plans are going to change along the way. And then this, and then this. And then this group meets on a regular cadence to make assessments, to pull those metrics in and to see if their assumptions were correct or if they need to roll something back and pivot. Always communicating and working with the team. Nobody likes to be changed. We want the workers to be part of the change and share and contribute their ideas. So if we come and we have our implementation plan, before I just implement it, I want to get buy-in by those people who do the work. So I present it and they're saying, what do you think? What, where are we wrong? What do we need to modify? And then potentially from that feedback, updating your implementation plan. Okay, Burnett, what format do you use to track the implementation plan? If it were me, I would do it in a Kanban board. Anyone knows me. A really simple Kanban board. It could be a free one in Trello. You could do it in a shared spreadsheet, but that's not as fun. So I would have, here's all the stuff we want to accomplish. And then we prioritize those by, okay, this is the one we'll probably start with, and this one. And then it'll go down that list. Think of it like a little backlog of improvement ideas. And then we could assign owners to those little tickets. And then we have something that's like, okay, this one's ready. This one's in progress. And then we maybe have an evaluation step and then done. There's a lot of other tools you could use. That seems pretty simple. We have that here. Yay. Yes. And then it's right in your face. And then when you have the meeting, you just, all right, everybody pull up the Trello board. Let's see where we're at. And then the first few times people are like, oh, I forgot we had that Trello board. So we all got to start somewhere, right? Getting people invested. All right, so here's my future state. I was thinking, a lot of the problems in my meme factory is the validation, we have manual people are going in and making sure that the requirements are all clear. And then a lot of people have to rewrite them. In some cases, like, I don't know what's going on. So they have to go reach out and contact, send an email to the requester. And you know how that's going to be delayed. Oh, in my spam folder. So how can we update our ordering system so it's very clear what's required from the customer, so we know that we're going to build the right thing? And then some kind of automation validation, and thinking we could reduce some of the work in process along the way. Just an example. And then here's an example, like if you just wanted to use a spreadsheet, here are very simple. Here's the target, measurable, right? When you have those conversations, like, I want it to be more fun. Okay, me too. How would we measure that, right? How do we measure the fun quotient? And then what are some ideas in order to address that and hope we can meet that target? Who's going to own it? What's the general time frame? And then a status update to get aligned to make sure we do it. All life's an experiment. And there you have it. Value stream mapping in, what is it, 40 minutes. What questions? If anyone's still awake, questions, thoughts, concerns, suggestions. This is the fun part, everyone. I can tell Jim wants to say something. Because he's only with the camera on. I just realized you're the only with their camera on.
Think about what I want to say, that's all. How often would you recommend doing this?
It depends. It depends. Do one first. Honestly, just do one. And then see how it goes. And then I would do it. It depends on all of the things you're trying to do. Maybe once a year, maybe every 6 months. If you can do it in 3 hours, though, maybe once a quarter, right? You already have the current state. There's not a lot of extra work there. That seems like a good cadence. I would love that. And you're actually, it's almost like I was going to say a sprint, but I guess that's not a sprint, right? A target, like for process improvement. And we're doing it instead of just talking and complaining about it. All right, Suleiman, the 21 days. Talk to me, buddy. What do you mean by that? Oh, this guy here.
Yes, hi, Jenny. How did you come up with this?
So I just added.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So I just added the lead times from each one of the columns, unless I did the math wrong. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I did math wrong. I didn't math right, but yeah, it's just a total of these. Boop.
Okay, no worries.
Yep. So that would be your total lead time from beginning to end. Math. That's why a spreadsheet would be good. It could do the math for me, right? All right. What other questions? Is this something you think would be useful? Actually, that's what I should start with. Jim's shaking his head. Yes. Hey, I see my friend Michael. How's it going, Michael? Has anyone done one before?
Hey, Jill, there's another comment here in the chat from Erin. They say, I'm curious about the team of teams concept with using this. I really like it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that. Must have gone right to you. So Erin, if you're in, or if you're doing safe and it's a train, it's someone from each unit would come, and then you would do it kind of twofold. When you're looking at, and that depends on how the teams are. First of all, if it's a solution, you're all building the same solution. Let's agree on that. And then I want to understand what it takes when my product manager has an idea for a feature, and what are the steps we go through. Think about it on the big team of team levels at this point. And then I think, okay, for each one of those major steps, which of the teams are involved? And maybe each team can take a feature, if you're doing software development, can take it from beginning to end. Maybe you have some teams that are not cross-functional. Maybe they're a support team or something like that, or the architects, right? They're a shared service. So with each one of those steps, what I like to do, that's why I kind of like the mural board, is identifying, like drag a little sticky over. Okay, now this team will come in and interact with this other team. Or you might have a local DevOps, whatever you want to call them, team that's taking everything through the pipeline. And then just creating a visual model of that and then putting times. So it's a tricky thing. That's one way to do it, kind of the holistic approach. What you could also do is start with the team level. So for each individual team on your team of teams, they go and they create the current state from their perspective and then the future state. And then each one of those teams does this exercise to see how they can optimize their processes. And then with that information, get some of those lead times, understanding if there are some big bottlenecks in the whole chain, and then do this as at a larger step, that program level step. All right, great question. Let's see. Michael, I've seen meetings to identify bottlenecks. Yes, turn into a oh, Michael. So he says in the chat, I've seen meetings to identify bottlenecks turn into a blame game. Yes, how should you diffuse that kind of situation? So these are things to look out for. If you've ever facilitated a meeting with a bunch of high-powered leaders, that happens. They get competitive and defensive. So a couple of tips when you're doing your preparing and planning, a lot of them is to set the stage for it. This is not a blame game. We're not focused on the workers. We're focusing just on the work. There's a reason why we set it up this way, because we're all smart people. We're not going to work together. So try to set that level. And then if it does happen and it comes up, you've got to have a strong facilitator. You'd have to. Otherwise, just like, and then everyone leaves, and I'll never do it again. To say, all right, in terms like bottlenecks, a lot of it's terminology. I was teaching a Kanban class and I kept using that word because that's what we talk about a lot. And one of the people said, you know what, I hate when people call me the bottleneck. It drove her crazy. Like it felt so personal. And like, yeah, that is kind of true. Jill's the bottleneck. If you can reframe that, maybe. All a bottleneck is, it's some step. It could be a person, it could be a piece of equipment that has too much demand and not enough capacity. I mean, that's it. It's not personal at all. It's like, oh, the person who is the bottleneck is not the problem. It's there's too much stuff and not enough time. So maybe there's a better word for that. Everything I think of it sounds worse, but anyway, good point. Too much stuff. So, and a lot of that might be invisible, right? So make the invisible visible. Well, how many work items are on this bottlenecks? Look at the queue in front. Well, duh. And of course, we need to minimize that. Maybe the left side of your process, slow down, okay? You're just dumping all these on this poor person. Of course, they're going to be stuck. Maybe you can come in and help too, if you can do some cross collaboration. And then once you try to do all the easy stuff to eliminate that bottleneck, you might have a case for, we need more people, right? Maybe we really do need to hire someone, boss. And hopefully that boss is in this meeting so you can understand it and see it thoroughly rather than just say no. Getting a little feisty here. Other questions?
When you're feisty like this, maybe I should bring you to the meeting when I need more resources.
Yes, please. I would love to do that. Sign me up. Yep. Data, and then link the data to money. Money talks when we were talking to those leaders. And this is what it's costing you not to hire someone. Oh, yeah. All right. Other questions? I'm waiting for 7 seconds. Where's Rachel? She'd be so proud of me. She was in our Agile team facilitation course. All right. And I am a fan of ending early, as anyone who's taken my classes know. And it's like, hey, teacher, let us out early. It's so fun. Oh, nice. Yes, I just calm down, eat a chocolate chip cookie, Jill. But actually, it is like therapy for me. I'm not kidding. I do enjoy a good chocolate chip cookie. I've never eaten a bad chocolate chip cookie. There's some that are better than others. Okay, I'm off topic. Anywho, thank you everybody for joining. And I am going to send a link to this webinar to my awesome VP of marketing, and she's going to kick it out. And so you can have it and watch it over and over again. Have a love. I was going to say weekend shoot. It's only